I'm going to say this as quickly and as succinctly and as clearly as I possibly can about the Carolina Panthers preseason. I hated the Panthers' entire product of preseason football. Almost nothing was remotely exciting or increased my optimism. All right, is that about as close to like just putting it out there as I possibly can? The funny part is who was like as something as simple as who was the darling of the preseason? Every year there's somebody, there's a young player, there's somebody who was the darling of the preseason? Who? And if you can't answer that, what are we doing here? Thank goodness the preseason doesn't actually count. Thank goodness, because if it did, the Panthers would start 100 miles in the hole. They'd be in the dungeon already. And I have to the way they handled the preseason so bad, I have to take back compliments I gave them earlier in the preseason. I have to be an Indian giver or whatever they call it, right? The give it and give it back guy. So last year, remember the preseason, right? Last year, the Panthers played their offensive starters one drive, a singular drive. And then what happened? This is not an exaggeration. The team had the worst start to an NFL season in the history of the NFL. Through 2 games, the amount of points they had given up compared to the amount of points they had scored was the worst start in NFL history. So what happens if you do something to lead up to a season and you have the worst start in NFL history? You would hope you would look at what decisions you made that led to that slow start and you would change it. And at the beginning of the preseason, when they announced that the starters were going to play in the very first preseason game, you can go back and find it. You can go listen to it on our YouTube. You can find it in podcasts. We had the conversation where I gave Dave Canales a bunch of credit for changing, because there's a lot of football coaches out there are pretty stubborn. They're pretty set in their ways. They think they know better even when the results tell them otherwise. So he was changing, right? Oh, he's going to play his starters. Oh, they're going to play more. Okay. He's going to look at their start last year and make an adjustment. Woo! Turns out learned nothing. Do you know how many plays the starters played last preseason? 12. You know how many plays the starters played this year? 18. You think those 6 plays are the difference?
50% more.
You think 6 plays? Oh, now they're ready. 6 bad plays, by the way. Because they played 6 plays in preseason game 3.
The 2 series against Houston.
2 3-and-outs. We'll give them 18.5 plays because one was called back on penalty. 6.5 bad plays because the one that was called back on a penalty was actually a horrendous interception. When they start slow to start this season, I won't be surprised. I won't. When Jacksonville has a strong first quarter, and who knows how long the start will last. I'm not here to say they're definitely going to lose week 1, at least not yet. I'll wait a little bit to make my official picks. But when they come out a little sluggish, I'm going to go, what did you expect? You played a handful more plays, and you played them worse than you played last year with the starters. Of course, you're going to have a similar, if not worse, experience at the beginning of the year.
Worth noting, though, it appears Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars starters also will not play in their preseason finale either.
Which, by the way, I don't follow enough of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Every team is not the same. Right? There are teams. Sean McVay never plays his starters in the preseason, or at least for years he didn't, and they didn't start slow. So whatever he does to get them ready, whatever his players have in their brains, they're different than the Panthers. What I know is the entire Panthers offense outside of Tepper and McMillan is darn near the exact same as last year, and their preseason was very similar as far as usage and as far as preparation, and they're expecting different results. And even if they're 15% better, that's still a horrendous start. I don't think, and this is the question I asked earlier, I don't think the players that are going to be depended upon this season are significantly more prepared to have success in week 1 now than they were a month ago. I'm not saying they won't have success in week 1. I'm saying I didn't see anything that makes me more optimistic now than I was a month ago. Which means you did an entire preseason, 3 games, full training camp, fan fest, all this stuff to be in the same spot. And in a sport that is known as a game of inches. Remember? Any Given Sunday, anybody? Al Pacino? Life's a game of inches.
The inches we need are all around us.
I made every bad decision a middle-aged man could make. Oh, all right, Coach. It's a great speech. If you haven't seen the movie, you need to. If you have seen the movie, it's a great pull-up on YouTube. Just watch that speech and then go run through a wall. But in the sport that is known as a game of inches, you cannot waste a month of camp. You cannot waste 3 preseason games. You cannot be in the same place you were a month ago at any point because other teams are getting better. And even if they're just getting 1 inch better, that could be the difference. 1/2 second too fast, too early, you don't quite get it. You know the speech. I'm not going to do the whole thing. It's that important. And then I ask why, okay? Because now, you try to get to the next level. They again did not play their starters very much. Why? What am I missing? For the second straight year, it feels like they're protecting something grand without something grand being there. If they were the best offense in the league last year, right? If say Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were put in bubble wrap at the beginning of this preseason, then it's okay, they're risking a slow start to guarantee they have all of the main components of what was awesome last year offensively ready week 1. Even if they're a bit rusty, even if they're not quite ready, their end-all, be-all terrible situation would be if one of those guys get hurt. The Panthers, they don't have that to protect. It's more important they get better than it is they protect themselves from injury. Because if you protect last year's offense and put it out there because, oh, goodness, we couldn't have done with you're going to be like the 24th best offense in the league. It's more important that you increase the production, the talent, the execution on your offense than it is for you to protect something grand. Let's hear from Dave Canales on what he needs or what he thinks needs to improve on the offense. This was after the game last night.
Yeah, let's score some points. Let's finish when we're in the red zone. The turnovers is a big thing. We got to continue to work on that and clean that up. That part is not up to our standard. We moved the ball. We got down there, but we got to finish. That's part of who we want to become. So, collectively, we got to find a way to do that.
How do you find a way to do that? By watching the third stringers not be able to do that? Again, and this has become the last 2 weeks. I can't get it out of my head listening and watching and talking with people about the Panthers. They're not a finished product. The last couple of games of last year were fun, but it wasn't some ding, they're done. Job complete. Football is not a complete thing anyway. I don't care if you're the Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. Their offense is not complete, but they're way closer than the Panthers. You don't rest on your laurels after 3, 4, 5 good games, which, by the way, were good games. Not great games, aside from the Falcons game. But even the Falcons game, you were forced to have to score a bunch because your defense couldn't stop anybody. I don't know why there's this air of everything's going to work. We don't have to worry about it. I'm going, no, worry about it. A little bit of fear of failure is good. A little bit of fear of failure might give you the kick in the tail you need. And oh, by the way, there's been a lot of failure with this group. And the best indicator of future results, past results. So if this group has failed a lot, I'd be pretty worried about and doing everything I possibly could to make sure it doesn't happen again.